I didn't leave. I'm here, everybody. Hang on. Just wanted to flip the light on so we could get a little bit better with the lighting. Let me just set this back just a little bit. All right. Hi, everybody. It's Joe Cioffi here on this Monday. Fios 1 News Long Island and Fios 1 News New Jersey. And our Mr. Rao will be here shortly. Joe Rao, Fios 1 News Hudson Valley. Also joined by Joe Alloy. Good to see you. And Joyce Rosselli and Mansour Rao, who's taking care of some business. Ronnie Lang, Chris Bailey, Keith Allen Verde, Brian Carroll, and go away, Brian. Stop with the snow nonsense. Joe J. Case III and Joe Arabia has joined us as well. Glenn Kelly. I could keep reading names until Joe walks in here, but we'll just leave it at that. I'll give a few more. Ray Arnold. Hey, Ray. Glenn Kelly, Jennifer Tedesco, Jimmy Zindel, Justin Mark, Sharon Williams, Nikki Hen, Keith Trake, Rob Riley, Dennis Cassia, Jason Barry, Teddy Kane, Crystal Jean, Jonathan Sachs, Janet Forbes Dunn, and all the saints who have done our will throughout the ages. Okay, so quite the day indeed. We've seen, actually, when you think about it, we really have seen we often go gaga over big snowstorms, and understandably so, especially for you snow lovers out there. But I have to tell you, from the standpoint of weather, just general weather, of what we've seen over the last 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, this really was remarkable when you think about it. As remarkable as the 4 nor'easters were in March, we had temperatures that reached into the 80s Friday and Saturday. Then the backdoor cold front came through. Backdoor. Yes. I'm just saying, Joe, how really, when you think about it, how remarkable the weather was these last 3 or 4 days. I mean, we swung the gambit. We went from 80s in a lot of locations Friday and Saturday, but let's be general, 70s and 80s. We did it on Saturday. The backdoor front comes in from the east. I had a 25-degree temperature drop in 2 hours. I went from 72 to 47 in no time. And then we saw those temperatures on Sunday drop here, even down at the coast, down into the mid-30s. Right. You had sleet. Right. Okay. Sleet for sure. On my deck last night, I made the comment that the New Jersey Devils, who are in the midst of the Stanley Cup quarterfinals, I said we ought to invite the Devils and Tampa Bay to play on my wooden deck, because last night it was just coated with, and it wasn't freezing rain, but it was sleet. I was walking. You had to be very careful because it was almost like walking on raw rice. Yeah, that was the kind of. There were parts of northern Connecticut, by the way, a couple of towns in northern Connecticut that had so much sleet that they actually had to have plows out this morning to get rid of it. But then we had that. The wind was what really impressed me in all of this. I really didn't. I mean, I thought it would get breezy or occasionally gusty, but the wind was just, on Long Island at least, and certainly from some of the odds I saw in New Jersey, was unrelenting. We had gusts to 60 miles an hour on Sunday. Well, I'm further inland. I'm in Putnam County, and I would have to say it was more of a refreshing or a breezy kind of day, not necessarily a windy day. But still, I mean, we, as you pointed out, we saw such a tremendous change in the temperatures on Saturday. I was out much of the day doing a lot of work. I'm sure a lot of people were doing a lot of work. Cleanup, catching up after the month of March with the 4 nor'easters. I spent much of the day out in my yard dragging tree limbs and tree branches and everything into the woods. It was 75 degrees. I was sweating like a pig, or a dog or something. But around 3, 4 o'clock, all of a sudden the breeze picked up out of the east-northeast, and you could feel the temperature going down. You could feel it getting more refreshing or exhilarating. And when we got to like 6 or 7 o'clock, I said,
damn, it's cold out here. I'm going inside.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
The winds were howling Saturday night and through today. We saw the winds just go insane on Long Island, at least. And there were some crazy wind gusts reported in upstate New York. Timothy Veltman just letting us know that they had 94-mile-an-hour winds on Whiteface.
Wow!
And there were gusts up into the 70s in upstate New York. I mean, it just was crazy. But we are at least this is the 5th major storm in 6 weeks.
Right. And it really wasn't a major storm. It wasn't a storm per se. Well, it was a storm, but it wasn't for us. We got.
Right.
In fact, I was describing it on air today as a meteorological swizzle stick.
Right.
Because this storm had everything going for it. If you went down to the south, it had severe weather and thunderstorms and tornadoes. If you went to the western edge of the storm, west and north of the storm center, blizzard-like conditions. And of course, we here in the tri-state area, 1 to over 3 inches of rain. We had basically three weeks worth of rain in a span of less than 18 hours time.
Everywhere east of the Rockies started on Friday, and extended through Saturday and Sunday. Everywhere east of the Rockies had something going on with respect to the actual low center and the upper air circulation, but there was every major warning that we have,
right,
except for hurricane and tropical storm, was up. I mean, you had blizzard warnings up in the upper Midwest, and they had every bit of up to 2 feet in some places.
Did you see that the Minnesota Twins, the entire weekend canceled? They couldn't play a single game. And of course, the Minnesota Twins used to play in a domed stadium until there was a big snowstorm, I think in the 70s, and the dome collapsed.
Right.
And so now they said, well, we could play outside. Yeah, you could play outside.
Not this year.
Not this year, no.
Yeah, a few people, so another thing that happened.
And the Yankees got one game in on Friday, and they were playing in Detroit. So on Saturday they said, all right, we'll play like a doubleheader. And that got snowed out or iced out or whatever. And now they have a whole bunch of games they have to make up now in the summertime.
And a few people from Monmouth County messaged me on Saturday when the back door came through. They literally went from a T-shirt to a sweatshirt in 2 minutes.
Right.
The probably right near the shore, the temperature fall, because like I said, took 25 degrees in 2 hours. I did go fishing in the afternoon before the back door came through. I've often talked about that 2 miles I live north of MacArthur Airport, so I'm behind a hill, and a lot of times when the sea breeze comes in, it doesn't, it hits that little spine of elevation, and it takes forever for it to get over to the other side. Well, I was at my house, I was 73, 74. I drove down to go fishing down on the South Shore, so when I got down to the expressway near MacArthur Airport, it was the sea breeze had come in before the back door, so it was already in the mid-60s versus my house. Right. And then I drove down to South Haven Park, which is near Shirley, and it was in the upper 50s and low 60s there. And then I ran out of there when the back door came through, because I had a flannel shirt on, but I knew that it was not going to be enough. Trees, Joe Gaffney taking a beating. There's a lot of stuff that's down all over the place. These poor landscapers are going to go crazy. 15
years, 16 years I've been up in Putnam Valley, and I'm surrounded on 3 sides by trees that are anywhere from 40 to 60 or even 70 feet high. I have never seen so much bark ripped off the trees this year. I mean, I did a lot of cleanup on my lawn, and bark was every place. In fact, you could actually see some of the trees just like on one side, just stripped off. This was a heck of a winter.
Kim Amaral, there's no warm weather in sight. So if you want a repeat performance of what happened this weekend, it's not going to happen. Teresa Flandina, nice to see you here, Terry. Say hi to Dan for me, and hug to the kids. Always that person. Always that personal touch.
I like Timothy Veltman.
No mosquitoes.
The bright side,
yet.
no mosquitoes yet, and it also means no West Nile to worry about yet.
All right, so we got at least that part of the positive part of this equation. But let's pull up the surface map right now, because this whole complex system is still at it here in the east. It's taken. Think about it, Joe. It was back in the east central plains on Thursday. It's taken Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, almost 5 days for it to get from there to where it is now, where we've got one low center near Toronto, or actually just north of the North Shore of Lake Ontario, and there's a low sitting at the moment when you draw the surface map. The second low center is pretty much right over northern New Jersey. I mean, the circulation of this thing is huge, and you look at the enhanced clouds. I mean, they still go all the way back west of the Mississippi. So we've got atmospheric work to do in order to get some genuine improvement around here.
Yeah, in fact, I heard a lot of forecasts. I mean, it was Sunday, and I'm like monitoring and listening to what other forecasters were saying, and most of them were saying the following: tonight the temperatures are going to be going up. They're going to go up you wake up in the morning with temperatures around or even above 50. And I turned to my wife and I said, I doubt that's going to happen, because as I said last week, the whole thing that's going to drive the wet weather that we had, the deluge that we had last night and this morning, is the front acting like a gigantic atmospheric crowbar, trying to pry out the cold air that started coming in Saturday afternoon, settled in over us during Sunday, and continued into Sunday night. And I said, there's no way the temperatures are going to be making any significant climb, maybe a degree or two, but when we finally indeed pry the cold air out, that's when the temperatures are going to jump. And that may not happen until sometime during the day on Monday. Well, sure enough, this morning many of you woke up not to temperatures near 50. It was probably more like upper 30s or maybe near 40. And it wasn't until, again, that front finally passed through that the temperatures, even without sunshine, managed to suddenly jump up. We had high temperatures close to 60 in many spots, but not until the second half of the day. So, again, it was that effect of just trying to push or get rid of this cold air that started coming in during Saturday afternoon.
Chris Bailey, Long Island rainfall amounts were generally in the 2 to 3 inch range in most places. There's another system that's coming into the west that is going to be moving eastward. So that's once this system in the east pulls out. You know, one of the plus sides with this system that's in the east, Joe, is the fact that it's going to it's kind of taken all the energy out of the atmosphere in a large way. So it's the next weather system that comes along.
We have much to tap on.
It won't really have much to work on, even though the upper air with it looks, I wouldn't say impressive, but if it wasn't for this storm that we just dealt with, we would probably be paying some attention to it. But again, there's not going to be a whole lot of it for it to work on, because the atmosphere has been pretty much robbed by this storm, and the Gulf is not going to be open with this one, so we're not going to have Gulf moisture. You can see it's still pretty busy on the radar, still snowing back up in the northern Great Lakes. Right. It's just it's incredible to me.
And in the wake of the main storm tomorrow, we'll have a little ripple go by in the atmosphere during the day, and while we might have a renegade shower as early as tomorrow morning, most of the activity will probably pop up in the afternoon. So again, we have a chance for some hit or miss showers tomorrow. And then finally, a little dome, a little ridge, if you will, of dry, fair weather on Wednesday, not providing us with a brilliantly clear day, but just enough to provide us with dry weather for much of the day Wednesday, some intervals of sunshine. But temperatures, Joe, all through the rest of this week, much too cool. I mean, it should be in the low 60s now, at least up in the Hudson Valley, and I don't really see temperatures getting out of the 50s for highs all during the course of this week. We may not hit 60 degrees again until either the end of this upcoming weekend or early next week.
Yeah, Jersey may get close, though. I think, it finds a way. But even if it does get to 60, we should be up now at about 64 or 5. So, I don't really see anything in the pattern, looking in the long term, of anything really changing soon.
No, and you know who agrees with you? The Climate Prediction Center, who in their 3 to 4 week experimental long-range prog had a very large section of the country under below normal conditions, which would take it right on into, I think, the 10th or the 11th of May. There is no sign, even now up until early to mid-May, that we're going to have any protracted or prolonged period of either normal weather or above normal weather. It is going to continue to remain unseasonably cool, probably right on through the rest of this month and on into the beginning of next month.
I wanted to bring this up because I just find it hilarious. Whether this unusual brings out conspiracy theorists. I just, on my YouTube channel, where they tend to congregate from time to time, I was told apparently that they sprayed on Friday to bring about this 25, 25, 30 degree, 40 degree temperature drop on Saturday and Saturday night, and then they sprayed again to bring the deluge heavy rain, and then they sprayed again because of the blizzard that they had up in the upper Midwest. Let me just point out, as radical as as radical as some of the things that we've seen, backdoor cold fronts have happened before, and this is not the first time that we've seen 25, 30, 40 degree temperature drops in the early part of the spring. I mean, even you go into May and June, sometimes you can get pretty radical drops depending on the wind direction and how cold the ocean is.
Well, I could even bring. Well, today is what? Today is the 16th.
Yes.
16th of April. 2 days from now, not tomorrow, but on Wednesday, will be the anniversary of the hottest Easter on record in the New York metropolitan area. We hit 96 degrees.
Right.
That was not only the hottest Easter, it was also the hottest temperature in 1976. Not in July, not in August. The 96 that we registered on April 18th of that year was the hottest temperature for that season in New York City. But what it made interesting, and what you just mentioned,
we got backdoored with that.
We got backdoored with that, and that cut the temperature down really fast. And I mean, you get into these hot, searing, torrid days of July and August, and sometimes you see the chance of a backdoor, and you start praying, "Come on, baby, come on down." And I've known backdoors where it's gotten all the way down as far as, let's say, Albany to like Hartford, and then all of a sudden it comes to a halt and goes back north. No.
Yeah.
The cool air just.
You want it to get in here, it doesn't.
You hear about the people in Boston; they get like 55 degrees. Meanwhile, we're sweltering at 90. So it has happened, and will continue to happen.
Stalin Nunez, the man who has always had my back, is on tonight. I just wanted to say hi to you, Stalin.
I miss you, Stalin.
Miss you terribly. Mark Jeffers, happy birthday. I know you're digging out in Appleton, Wisconsin. Mark is, moved. He's from Wisconsin, and we've been friends for many years. And he just moved back there.
See now, the Milwaukee.
And he got buried up his way.
Yeah, but the Milwaukee Brewers played the Mets over the weekend. If they had played the game in Milwaukee, I don't know if they could have played. They could have, theoretically they could have played because Milwaukee has a dome stadium. But on the other hand, how many people would have been able to make it to the stadium through 1 to 2 feet of snow and blizzard conditions? So.
Cynthia Guignatis, good to see you, bringing the weather from central Indiana. Here's our weather system now, just taking you through the GFS. So here comes the next one. And as we said, there really isn't that much for it to work on. It kind of looks like this is just going to be a low that's going to go to western New York. Maybe a little weak secondary develops on it, but I'm just not impressed with it. We'll maybe get a few showers here. I'm thinking later Wednesday night, and then maybe again late Thursday if there's a weather front that goes by. But other than that, I'm just not. I'm just not really seeing too much.
It's just your plain ordinary. We have some gusty winds, gusty breezes with the gradient tightening up. But it looks like right now, Joe, if this thing keeps on trucking, it looks like at least for the upcoming weekend, beggars can't be choosers. It looks like Friday into Sunday, basically fair, dry, sunny days and mainly clear
and
nights.
Chilly.
The only problem will be the temperatures, which are probably going to be averaging anywhere from 10 to maybe 15 below normal.
The next system that follows, by the way, models have been pretty consistent with this for days, and it looks like it's getting shunted to the south. Which is I'm really happy about because I'm going fishing on Sunday up in northern Connecticut for 3 days, and I don't want any rain. I could deal with it as long as the sun is out. If the sun is out, I'll make it up into the 50s to maybe near 60.
Right.
But I'm happy. This looks like the next system that follows the one on Thursday goes out underneath us, and then we could say goodbye. But definitely, when we look at the temperature anomalies, Joe, they are cold. I'm going to bring it up, and I'll go back. It does moderate a bit here. Let me just go backwards a few days, but we can at least show everybody from the rest of the week, of this week. Okay, so here we are. So
And by the way, be careful.
Here's Tuesday.
Be careful what you pray for, because a lot of people are probably saying, will spring ever come? When will it warm up or whatever? You know what's going to happen? We'll have all of this unseasonably cold weather through much of May, and then all of a sudden...
And the switch will be flipped.
The switch will be turned on, and we'll be in a blast furnace for July, June and July or whatever.
Here's at least that we know the blast furnace isn't happening this week. We've got below normal temperatures. You know, here's Wednesday, Thursday. Kind of moderates a little bit on Thursday with that low going by, and then another shot up below normal temperatures for Friday and Saturday. And let me go to Sunday below average, and then, you know, after that it kind of starts to moderate a little bit, but, you know, still seems to want to trend more toward below than above until we get to the very end of the month.
And the western states, where you see all of that red, they're not only having above normal, will continue to have above normal temperatures, but they have like red flag warnings and dry conditions, drought conditions out there. So it hasn't been a picnic if you go out west either. That's one thing I think that we might just miss this year, because usually at this time of the year in the spring, we usually have at least a couple of these red flag days and the dry conditions and the gusty winds.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that's coming.
Going to happen.
By the way, if you want to know where spring is, you know, one of the things I've been saying, I've been paying attention to, you know, the weather in Europe a lot in the last few months, and what was odd, well, I don't know if it was odd, but just the fact that we had storms in March going on at the same time that you know, they were having storms in March, and they were seeing, you know, unusual weather with the blizzards in England and in Ireland and in areas in Western Europe. But they seem to now have, because how the pattern is shaping up, they seem to now have kind of emerged into this more typical spring for them, and warmer weather. Much of Europe above average, including England, and when we go through this week,
no beast from the east.
No, there's really not that much cold air. It's all been cut off for the entire week. And in fact, Joe, if you look, even I'm going to put the precip map on. Overall, this week in Europe, the weather is actually fairly quiet. There's some rain going on tonight into Tuesday in parts of Ireland and Western England, but with an Atlantic Ocean storm, but that's it. Much of Europe is very quiet into Western Russia. Even in Siberia, there's not a whole lot of snow going on. So it looks like, you know, that side of the world seems to be warming up now. We haven't quite caught up with things here. The pattern overall has just been really incredible these last 5 weeks.
Yeah. I can still trace it all the way back, Joe, to those final few days in February when people were throwing in the towel on winter, and you were warning everybody about, you were watching that building block developing, and there could be some major atmospheric upheavals. And ever since that first day into March, it's been like one day and 1 week after another. Wasn't it kind of nice to have a couple of, you know, warm days, Friday and Saturday? But we're right back to the old script now again.
Saturday was nice. I have to admit, I got a lot of yard work done too. You were busy with your yard, so I think a lot of people at least got some of it done. Of course, now after the weekend, there's more tree branches down. There's more, you know, dead wood lying all over the place. I was only managed to get about 20 bags of leaves done, and I have about 100 to go. But at least I got 20 of them done.
Well, the key, at least on my property, before you can drag out the tractor mower, is you have to get rid of all those sticks. And let me tell you, the sticks were innumerable. I said to myself, this is going to take forever. But thankfully, my wife and I were able to get much of it done. And pulling those, I mean, literally, you folks who don't do much in the way of yard work, and you look at all the pretty trees and think, you have no clue how heavy a tree limb is. I'm not talking about the tree itself, but just a limb that falls off a tree. And by the way, I told you a story earlier to you. I think I'm standing out there with the rake and, you know, the bags and everything else, and all of a sudden, no more than 10 feet away from one of those big trees, from an altitude of about 20 or 25 feet, a big limb just broke off and hit the ground like 10 feet away from me. And I'm saying to myself, what would have happened if I had been 10 feet closer? That thing hit me.
Well, thankfully, it didn't happen.
But, you know,
I don't want this to be the Joe Show.
You say to yourself, how do these things happen or whatever? Why did these things happen? And I said to myself, I said, you just look and say, like, oh my God, it's
you know, Exactly. So thankfully, nothing happened.
Well, you just get somebody else.
No, I can't replace. Well, they have to be named Joe.
Oh, all right.
But no, I can't replace you.
Oh, thank you.
By the way, I got my hair cut and you didn't say anything.
Oh.
I'm hurt.
I thought you got them all cut.
I did. I got them all cut.
I have not had a cut like that, like a crew cut or whatever, since I was 13 years old.
Go for it. Minimalism. It's wonderful. You don't have to do anything with it, but just get out of the shower and run your hair through it.
I think, though, one of the aspects of my being able to do television is this...
Your hair?
This head of hair or whatever.
Oh,
people immediately recognize that.
You got a good head of hair there.
Yeah.
Marco Mastrorilli. It looks like most of the area got 3 to 4 inches. Marco, it was kind of crazy, but it was a lot of areas got between 3 and 4 inches of rain. It was quite the deluge. You didn't say anything about my hair. I'm like really deeply hurt, Joe.
I think your hair is wonderful.
You like what my colorist did to
Yes,
him?
yeah.
You dyed the gray in perfectly.
Yeah. You're not like the president. You don't have those little white things underneath your eye. Or whatever. You don't look orange.
Well, that's true. And I'm I'm not tan yet. I haven't had much sun. Got to get outside.
Yeah. Well.
All right, let's call it a night. Fios One News Long Island and Fios One News New Jersey awaits for me.
And Fios One News Lower Hudson Valley, and hopefully we will see some milder temperatures sometime down the road, but and drier conditions. That'll come probably on Wednesday. The cool air still remains, but right now I'll buy into at least a nice dry day. That's for Wednesday.
Right, make do with what we got, I guess. And Brian Fitzgerald, Jeff Banson on in the morning.
And Addison Green and Brittany Borer for the midday, and then we come in at 2 o'clock and
change all their forecasts.
Change everything and screw everything up.
That's right. Have a great day, rest of your day, which doesn't have much left to it. We will see you guys tomorrow.
Or Reservoir.